Shalom again, everybody. Ariel Tzadok here from the KosherTorah School, found online at www.koshertorah.com. Bringing to you today's daily lesson in the Sefer Yetzirah. Today is lesson 54, and of course, dedicated to the safety, health, well-being, and prosperity of everybody around the world, facing the obstacles, trials, tribulations of our global pandemic, and the obstacles it creates, reminding you, look for the opportunities. We're in a time of transition and change. And the transition and change that is going to be applicable for you personally is going to be very different than the same transition or difference, change that needs to be for someone else. This is that unique nature of what we're referring to here as the combination of letters. Now, we are actually now going to be in Mishnah 5 of chapter 3, because Mishnahs 4, 5, and 6 actually form a whole. But yesterday, in our previous class, we discussed the concept of space and how everything in space differs based upon our concept of emesh. Now remember, when we refer to space, we refer to three-dimensional space, four-dimensional space. We refer to this as what the Bible refers to as the heavens and the earth. And we refer to the different dimensional planes, which are foundational, natural in our universe. And it is vital for us to understand this with regards to the application of what we call formation or Yetzirah. If you want to, for example, use this technology, and it is a technology, to actually form, to get the prima matter, use it, and then form it through hakika, through the engraving, through the carving, through the permutations, the weighing, and all those different things. You got to know what exactly you're doing. Now remember, my whole purpose in all of these classes is to weed out the mythology, the fantasy, which is essentially the delusions of somehow thinking that what we're dealing with here is magic. There's no such thing as magic. What there is are levels of technology which we have not yet discovered. Now, as we discussed in the previous class about space, that there are higher other dimensional realities. Well, just to give you a timestamp, today is the 20th of May, yes, in 2020. Yesterday, on May 19th, there was an article published in the New York Post, which says that scientists in the Antarctica have now discovered somehow, somewhere, ways, whatever, to suggest the reality, the existence of a parallel universe where in which time marches backwards as ours marches forward. Now, I posted a link to that New York Post science story on my Facebook page. So for those of you who have access to Facebook and you're in close in time, they can actually go down my scrolling there. You should be able to find it. Or New York Post, whatever it is, .com, and go put it in, parallel universe scientist. Look up the article. You'll see that this stuff is real. And the reality of this, you and I deal with on a daily basis, even though we don't know it. Remember, Olam, Shana, and then we will deal with Nefesh. Space, time, consciousness exists in all three different realities, each in its own way. Remember the permutations. Aleph with all with Aleph. Mem with all with Mem. Shin with all with Shin. And when I perceive through Aleph, I see things one way. When I perceive through Mem, I see in another way. When I look through Shin, I see things yet in a third way. So consider this, if you will, as color. If you were to have glasses like these here that I'm wearing, and you had yellow lenses, you would see the world through a yellow tint. If I had a red lens or a green lens or a blue lens, I would see things all through those different tints. Now, let's say, for example, that you have only known one tint color all your life and you've never seen another. You look at the world completely through a green tint. You don't know what is blue or red or yellow. All you know is green. And if I come and I say to you, well, there's something called yellow or red, and we see things through this tint differently than do you, you can't wrap your mind around it. And therefore you discount the reality or the possibility of such a reality. Now, okay, you're going to acknowledge the theory, but let's get into the real practice of this in actual daily affairs. Let's talk about one topic here at KosherTorah.com most people talk about, and that is religion. Look at our religions today. The chances are that if you are religious and you were brought up in a religion, that religion has, even if you have distanced yourself from it, it still has its seeds in the back of your mind. So, for example, our Western civilization is built upon a European cultural model. And pretty much all of Europe for the past 2,000 years, give or take, has been Christian. What that has done is influenced the Christian psychological archetypes of the Western mind. And whether or not you are secular, and whether or not you are religious, whether or not you are Jewish or Christian or Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, if you're living in this culture, then the influence of that culture permeates your mind, even if it's just at the unconscious or subconscious levels. And we see this reflected in everything in this environment. And this is the basic yesod of how letters are permutated into the shape of thought or form, which I'm kind of jumping the gun to get into tomorrow's lesson about consciousness, but we'll get into that then. So understand, this is why most people have a prejudice, if you will, a foundation as their world outlook. And this is what Carl Jung referred to as the racial subdivisions within the collective unconscious. If you were to be born and raised in India, even if you were a Christian or a Jew, you would still be under the influence of the Indian psyche. Same thing in China, same thing in any place around the world. And therefore, you must understand the nature of these influences and how they change. Now, consciousness, like I said, is the topic for tomorrow. Here, we're going to talk about time. And time is very, very important for us to understand in its relationship to both space and consciousness. So, I read Mishnah Hay. 3 mother letters, as we know, are in Shana. Shana means year, or, if you will, time. And they are expressed as heat and cold and medium, if you will. Hom v'kor v'ravaya. Hom, heat, is created from fire. Kor, cold, is created from water. And ravia, mild, if you will. This is what balances between them. I don't think that's a real profound statement. I guess we all associate heat with fire and cold with water. Even though, if you really consider it, look at any and all elements, all right? Go study this. Any element, whatever its form, gas, liquid, or solid, can be transferred into one of the other states. One of those elements which we know also well, and we deal with in all of its three states, of course, is H2O, hydrogen oxide, or what we know as water. I can take the molecules of water and slow them down, and I get ice. I can take the molecules of water and speed them up, and I get steam. Speeding up, hot. Slowing down, cold. Right in the middle, that's its place. Now, if you look at any type of element, you can have something like oxygen, which, as you and I know, we breathe its air. But can I not have liquid oxygen? Can I not take the air and turn it into, in quote, a water? Can I not take fire and turn it into a liquid? Did you ever see liquid fire? Of course you have. You burn it every day in your gas tank, don't you? Now, you could say it looks like clear liquid, looks like water. Don't drink the gas, please. All right, it's not water. All right, light a fire, it's combustible. It contains all. So this is the application of these things. Now let's apply this to, as we said, time. When we are dealing with time, everything correlates. The planets, as we will see in chapters 4 and later, they correlate to different times. Astrology. So here we are, for example, now, like I said, this is May, and we are in the northern hemisphere. As you know, I am right now in the United States, North America. For us, up here in the northern hemisphere, it is spring. But if you take the opposite, the underside of the earth, there the seasons are reversed, and there it is fall. Why is that the case? How is that possible? How come we don't have a singularity? Why can't we all just get along? Why does the world and time itself and seasons itself have to be different? And the answer is Amish. The reality of that which we call the Hesed, the Din, the Rachamim, the right, the left, and the center, in its materialization in time, is also subject to space and will reflect in consciousness. That's why, like I said, all three of these Mishnayot work together as one. And you have to understand this, again, not as religion, not as theology or dogma, but as, let's be blunt, science. This is an explanation of science. Our modern science, like I quoted to you from that New York Post article, they know darn well there's another universe out there, revolving or going in anti-time. So the Malachim who live there are anti-time. Our future is their past. Their past is our future. What happens when the two timelines meet at that place of vortex? That's where time is now mitigated, and we have what's called the dawn of Mashiach. Some claim that that's coming soon. Well, I guess time will tell. But getting back to the point now. Time, seasons, heat, cold, balance. Our earth itself is in space and exists in time. So as we know, it has a magnetic field, what we call a positive and a negative. It has its own emesh. Whereas in the northern hemisphere, the energies might be emanating in one form, call that whatever rose-colored glasses you wish, but in the southern hemisphere, they are going to materialize in a different form, a different hue, a different color. And that's just the way it is. So much so is this important that even as you know, we have the longitude and latitudinal grids. Well, astrology, which, believe it or not, really does work for those people who know how to understand it. No, it is not a prediction of the future. That is garbage. Why? Consciousness always influencing. So therefore, you're not in a closed system. You're always in an open system. And you can't predict the future in a mechanical, deterministic way, as long as there's that, factor of, what do they call that again? Well, whatever, it's the consciousness factor. But my point is, there's always choice, in spite of whatever some might think. Time changes. We celebrate the Exodus from Egypt in the spring. But if you're in the lower southern hemisphere, it's in your fall. While we are in the middle of a summer in the north, they are in the middle of a winter in the south. Now, why is this just important spiritually as opposed to just acknowledging the weather? All right? Magnetic fields of the earth. Because, like I said, space, time. Anyone who plots astrological charts to recognize the influence of individual cosmic rays from individual planets and stars upon specific places on the earth know that these things are always in a dance of movement. And where things are at a moment places a very important role upon its influence. So when you are born is one thing, where you are born is something else. So when you are born is vital to plant like a pin on the map as to where and when influence one another. So then when you move in space to different parts of the globe, you're moving in time, and the influences and the energies are therefore fluctuating and moving, as are you. And therefore, you have to find some kind of a program, a computer program, if you will, which is going to calibrate all these things to make some sense of it to you. Now, throughout the centuries, master astrologers who didn't have computers were able to plot all of these things and show suggestions of influence. In that, they're most likely accurate. We'll talk all about this in chapter 4. But right here, understand and know that, as we have always said, to every place in space and to every moment in time, there is a higher energetic field which calibrates it and materializes it and maintains it here in this three-dimensional space. That higher dimensional influence we call by different words. We can call it the Mosel, or the spiritual force, or we can call it your guardian angel, your spirit guide, your source above, your higher self. That's what this really, really is. And the nature of your contact to that source is going to fluctuate, and it's going to move in time just like it does in space. This is why our sages have revealed to us a very profound teaching. Mishane Mazal, Mishane Makom, gotta get it right. I'm doing things in reverse. Time, place. Mishane Makom, Mishane Mazal. One who changes one's place will change one's muzzle. And you can say your muzzle's your good luck, your astrological influence, but just remember, the relationship of stars and planets are only a reflection of energetic movements which can be influenced by consciousness. I don't know if they can be dominated by consciousness, but definitely nudged. So for those who understand the invocation of angels, you recognize that the order of the invocation of angels in the northern hemisphere has to be different from the southern hemisphere. And it's going to be different from the hour to the day to the week to the month. And places are going to be different. And you're going to say, oh, that's a bunch of involved calculations and whatever. Yeah, well, religious people can say, I'm just going to go directly to God. Go right ahead, knock yourself out. No one's going to tell you not to do anything. But if you want to use the tools that God gave you, well, God's going to send you right back down here and tell you to learn the way and order of the universe. And this is it. So understand the flow and nature of time and its relationship to space. And in our next class, we'll talk about its relationship to consciousness. And that is where I'll conclude today. God be willing, we'll pick up tomorrow. Ariel Bar Tzadok, KosherTorah School, KosherTorah.com. Check out the courses that we have available for you right now online in case you want to learn some more. Talk to you all soon. Shalom.